It is Blindness Awareness Month, and today I want to talk about my eye condition and just speak a little bit about growing up blind and what that was like for me and what it's been like for me. So I was actually not born blind. I know, shocker. But no, I often get the question, like, were you born blind? No, I was not born blind. I was born fully sighted, but I lost my sight at a really young age. And, ever since I was little, even now, like, I've always been the only blind girl in my family, in schools, oftentimes. I feel like for me, it also really kind of like made me want to challenge myself, because anytime my brother was like running around and doing stuff, I was like, ooh, I could do that. And it was never, the thing with my family is they never once pitied me and been like, oh, you can't run around. What are you talking about? It was very much like, hey, we're not saying you can't do it. We're just saying we have to adapt things to make it more accessible for you to be able to do this. But my brothers, especially, when it came to us like hanging out, and especially when me and my brother were like a lot younger, it was very much like, we're gonna adapt these things so that you can take part in it too. And so it's never been with my family like, hi, this is my blind sister, or hi, this is my blind niece or my blind cousin. It's always just been like, hey, yeah, this is my sister, this is my cousin, whatever, And like, I feel like for so long, like now I don't care. Now I'm just like, if they know, they know. If they don't, they don't. I don't really. But like when I was younger, I always used to ask my brothers, like, does your friends know that I can't see you? And like, sometimes it would be like, yeah, like I've told them, whatever. But other times they'd be like, no, like I haven't mentioned it to them yet, And then when they would see me like doing certain things where like I needed sighted assistance, they'd be like, huh? And then, they'd be like, oh yeah, by the way, she can't see. But it was never like, oh my God, your poor little blind sister. It was very much just like, nah, she's cis. Like I have a lot of people who from both of my brothers who were like family. And so to me, it was never like, are these people pitying me? It was very much like they quickly became family. And so there was never a question of like, this is pity, In terms of just my eye condition specifically, I went to the lighthouse from when I was about 5 to, I want to say 13. Yeah. So for a little while. And that was where I really like learned more about my vocal skills, played piano, played drums, danced. Like we did a lot of really cool things. But that's also where I met a lot of friends, and I went to a lot of programs growing up. And through those programs, I learned like I'm not the only person that's experiencing this feeling of what is life gonna be like? How am I gonna do X, Y, and Z? Because there were people that were like super, super new to it. And there were people that were like super, super true to it. You know what I mean? And so meeting both sides of that and knowing that like through these experiences, these programs, learning that, yeah, blindness is a spectrum. And every person in this community is going to do things differently. We might have the same eye condition, but we approach life differently. Might have different eye conditions, and and so I think it taught me a lot of just about knowing like you're not the only person experiencing whatever this is, right? Because as a child, you're just like, okay, great, I'm meeting new people, awesome. And so that was like a fun time for me, because I got to learn so many new things and have so many new experiences. But I think going back to my eye condition, like I was told, again, through these programs, I learned about like what an eye condition is, because when you're little, you're just like, okay, I'm blind, great. But I learned about what an eye condition is, and I like when I had an eye doctor appointment years ago, I was like, so what's my eye condition exactly? And they were like, you have optic atrophy. Now, it's in the name. Optic atrophy has a lot to do with your optic nerves, which can get damaged from multiple things, the biggest thing being tumors. But the thing is, with the optic nerve, you know, there's often time, you know, you're not going to go to the eye doctor and they're going to be like, we have a cure for you that you'll get in 10 years. You know, there's no like, let's just hit a button and you'll have a cure and you'll be able to see again. And I think and anybody else that has optic atrophy, like, I want to hear your perspective on this, because I haven't met a lot of people with the same eye condition as me. That's the truth. I haven't. I've met a lot of people that have RP, retinitis pigmentosa, you know, Stargardt's, different types of things. And so I think for me, I've never really had, in the sense of, hey, we have the same eye condition, like, conversation. And so I would love to know, like, if anybody does have that, because I'm curious. But with that, you know, the optic nerve, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but the optic nerve sends impulses to the brain. And so, you know, your eyes obviously, like, pick up, you can see light, you can see all these different things. And so when you can't see and your optic nerve is damaged, I believe my eye doctor once said that your optic nerve is supposed to be yellow, but mine is white. And so, you know, it's one of those things where they often say, like, is your eye condition progressive? Meaning, like, will it change over time? I can't say that for mine, because mine has always been the same from when I can remember. But there are some eye conditions that do, you know, change over time. And so, you know, I think for me, the biggest thing I want you to take away from this video is just that you can experience life and you can have a great life without being able to see. And seeing isn't everything. Like, seeing isn't everything. Everyone is temporarily abled. I'm gonna say that again. Everyone is temporarily abled. Anyone can have a disability at any point in time in their life. Disability doesn't care about race, age, where you live, where you come from, where you've been. Like, no. And so I think for me, it's just taught me so much about myself. It's taught me so much about how I perceive the world, and just kind of like advocacy, accommodations. It's taught me so much. Now, the values I have because of my blindness, would it be the same if I was sighted? I don't know how to answer that question. That's really hard, because I can't say a yes or a no. I feel like I've always been someone who always wants to learn and always wants to educate myself. And so I think if I was sighted, I would love to know more about the blind community, or any community, you know, that has any disability community. So my biggest thing for anyone, sighted, blind, other disabilities, like mostly the sighted people, you don't have to, like, seeing isn't everything. You don't have to, you can experience life without seeing. Everyone's temporarily abled. Have an open mind and be more curious. Like, ask the questions. Ask the questions, as long as they're appropriate and respectful. Ask the questions. Don't be afraid. You know, like, we are people. Blind people are people, because at the end of the day, blindness isn't everything. It's not like what makes us who we are. It's part of who we are, and it, like, makes up some of the things that we are, but it ain't everything. I'm so much more before I'm blind. Point blank. Blindness ain't everything. It's not everything for us. We are people first. We can do really great things, and I think, like, we're still normal, you know? Like, we are still like our sighted peers. We can still do things. This one makes me kind of sad, except for driving. Man, you don't know. Okay, sighted people, I have a secret for you. You have no idea how bad, as blind people, the one thing we want to do the most is get behind the wheel and drive and drive and drive. Okay, that's like the one thing. So that's like the one thing we can't do. But I mean, yeah, that's probably my biggest thing. My biggest message for you guys is just like, don't limit the blind people in your life. Also, parents of younger blind children, teenagers that are blind, I say this to my younger self, like, know that, you know, not to limit yourself, and parents not to limit your kid. Because when you limit them, it like really will affect who they are as they grow up. And so teaching them, asking them the questions, having conversations, and not being afraid to have the really difficult conversations is important. And to teenagers that are coming up in the blind community, I think the fact that there are already some that are doing so good, I'm going to call out Cara because she's amazing. You know, sharing your story and sharing with people your life and showing them like, hey, you know, days are going to be hard. I'm going to have some hard days. I'm going to have some really good days. But through it all, like, you're sharing with people that you are not just your blindness. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just like remembering that for the younger people, anyone that's new to blindness, like, you're not, and I know it's going to sound super cliche, but you are not alone. I think for so long I thought I was alone, because I was like, oh my god, you know, I go to school where everyone's sighted. I have my family's sighted. And so I think for me, just knowing like you are not alone in whatever process and part of your journey you're on. And let's just keep spreading awareness. Let's keep breaking down barriers. Let's keep advocating, because that's what matters. Okay, thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Goodbye. Oh, and happy Blindness Awareness Month.